and gentlemen, welcome back to another jam-packed episode of All Access with the Profs. I'm Gerasimos Gervasiliou, and as always,
go Profs!
Alongside me is the man, the myth, the prof aficionado, Leo H. West.
Thank you very much, Gerasimos, for that prestigious honor, and it is an absolute pleasure to be back on All Access for another week. And like you said, Yuri, we have a great show planned for the audience, that is for sure. Because coming up, we got baseball, we got lacrosse, and we got softball, and many more things to come as well.
We absolutely do, Leo, but before we get to all of that, we have some big-time highlights to go over because the Rowan baseball team was in Flemington, New Jersey the other day. They weren't even in Glassboro. They haven't been here because of all those crazy snowstorms we've been talking about, which is why Jake Clark has been frozen, but we think with the current weather, he may have gotten unfrozen. We'll find out later on. We'll find out later on in the show, but let's go to the clip. Let's see what the Rowan baseball team had in store for us this weekend. They were in Flemington, and it all started with Braden Davis, the cleanup hitter, a big hit into left center with 2 runners on. He brings on another, and the Profs in this bottom of the first so far are up 2-1. He was 4 for 4 in that first game, by the way. But here we go. Watch out, you're about to get schooled. It's Jason Schooley now with a hit. He didn't bring in just one. He brings in 2 runs for the Profs, and now they're up 4-1 in the bottom of the first. And again, they're coming up a 73 win in game 1. And guess what? Luke Bakunis is making sure that remains the case in game 2. An RBI double. He brings that one to the back left corner of left field. And the Profs are absolutely cruising with some small ball. And how about some more small ball? Joey Bogart, Bunting Bogart, you can call him after that one, as he brings in another run to give the Profs a 9-1 lead at the end of the third.
Well, how about some mashed baseballs instead of small balls, Gerasimos? Kevin Cole goes yard, and then 2 batters later, Evan McCoach does the same exact thing, bringing home Mason Dorsey too. And then get this, Damon Suriani, back-to-back jacks. Are you freaking kidding me, Yuri? That's some impressive stuff right there. And then Braden Davis, to add on to his incredible start to the season, brings in the 14th and final run for the Profs on this RBI double. He had like 6 or 7 of those. It was honestly too hard to tell how many he had too. And then to win the game, the freshman, Nick Watson, with a nifty little play too. Watch Joey Bogart in this one, snapping back to second, tags the runner out, mercy rules them, and they sweep Vermont State Castleton for the 3-0 start to the season. An absolutely impressive road trip to Flemington, and impressive stuff from Rowan baseball. It was simply fantastic.
It really was fantastic, Leo. Well, Rowan baseball, as you can see, is finally back, coming off a third-place finish at the 2025 College World Series. The Profs enter the weekend searching for its first wins of the new campaign, and providing insight on this year's rejuvenated ball club, it is Skylar Sweeney with your report.
Thanks, guys. It was a powerful start of the season for Rowan baseball, going 3-0 behind big offensive performances and timely pitching. Rowan opened the year on Friday with a 9-7 extra inning win over Penn State Harrisburg. Braden Davis delivered the biggest moment of the game, blasting a 3-run walk-off home run in the 11th inning. Davis finished the day with 2 home runs and 6 RBIs to lead the Profs. Rowan kept the bats going in a doubleheader against Vermont State Castleton at Diamond Nation on Sunday. In Game 1, freshman Kyle Lamentier hit his first 2 home runs of his Rowan career as the Profs secured a 7-3 victory. In Game 2, Rowan exploded offensively in a 14-3 win in 7 innings, highlighted by home runs from Kevin Cole, Evan McCoach, and Damon Suriani. The big win also came behind a 5-inning gem from starter Austin Cranehagen, who picked up 7 strikeouts. After the strong opening weekend, the Profs start the year at 3-0, making strong statements in hopes to get back to the World Series. I'm Skylar Sweeney, sending it over to Luke Brown, standing by with Braden Davis for our Athlete of the Week.
All right, here with our all-access Athlete of the Week. Athlete of the Week number 3 of all time, Braden. 8 doubles for you over the weekend after wins over Penn State Harrisburg and 2 in a doubleheader against Vermont State Castleton. What are you eating for breakfast right now, because it's working?
Usually the breakfast just consists of a Wawa Sizzly and about a hash brown. That's about it.
You were 10 for 13 with 3 home runs. 2 of them were clutch, one in the 9th and one in the 11th to get that win over Penn State Harrisburg. This team is facing a lot of ranked opponents to start the year. Penn State Harrisburg was certainly one of them. How important is that game moving forward?
I think it shows what we're made of. You know, it was such a resilient win by us from 1 through 9, and our pitchers pitched excellent. And I came through when the team needed me, and other guys will do that throughout the season as well. So it was good.
It's going to be a scary back-to-back in the lineup this year with Nick Struble and then you right after him. Can you talk about that 1-2 punch that the offense is going to provide throughout the season?
Yeah, I mean, Struble's a great player. You know, he hits the ball hard, he works hard. But at 1 through 9, it's not just me and him. I think we have 9 guys that could just hit the shit out of the baseball. So
today is the first time all season that you guys are practicing in Glassboro. How does it feel to be back on your field? It's a beautiful day today as well.
Yeah, it's our first day out here, and it's funny because we go to Florida tomorrow. So yeah, it feels good. Ready to go.
Braden Davis, Athlete of the Week, eating Wawa Sizzlies for breakfast and hitting the crap out of the baseball.
Yes,
thanks.
Thank you.
That's an excellent choice for the Athlete of the Week, Luke. And women's lacrosse lost the last time they were out in a close one against Muhlenberg. That being said, the Profs have a chance to get back on track with 2 games, one against Ursinus and the other against 15th ranked Stevens. Can the Profs get back in the rankings? Here's Jordan Weisinger with more.
The nationally ranked Rowan women's lacrosse team had 2 huge wins over the last week, getting back on their winning ways. One against Ursinus right here in Glassboro on Wednesday, and on Saturday, a big win against number 14 ranked Stevens on the road. It was a close game entering the 3rd period against Ursinus. Devin Buggy scored, making it 5-4 at the end of the 2nd. Rowan wouldn't look back. They outscored Ursinus 6-0 in the 3rd period and 10-3 over the last 2 periods to cruise to a 15-7 win on home turf. Rowan had 4 more shots on goal and 7 more shots in total. Elena Corson, Alexis Lowry, and Trish Gillen all had hat tricks in the win. Rowan was also a well-disciplined team with only one of the game's 7 penalties, after Alexis Lowry got a green card in the 4th period. Rowan is back in action this Wednesday against Scranton right here in Glassboro. From the Rowan Soccer and Lacrosse Complex, I'm Jordan Weisinger. Now, let's send it to Mason Kinahan for this week's edition of Tape Talk.
Thanks, Jordan. Rowan women's lacrosse picked up a big road win against 14th ranked Stevens last Saturday. The Profs scored 13 goals en route to the victory. How was Rowan able to find so much success on offense? Well, let's dive into the tape and find out. Rowan got on the board early with this Elena Corson highlight reel goal. Corson's going to be here at the top of the 12-meter fan, and it's a great individual effort by the senior attacker. A little spin move on the Stevens defender, and then finishing through traffic to put the Profs on the board first. A great effort from Corson. Let's skip ahead to the second half, where Rowan just allowed back-to-back goals. They're down by 2. They need some momentum, and Fiona Lockhart's going to deliver for the Profs right here. Lockhart's going to get the ball, and you'll see that the right side for Rowan just clear out. Those players on the interior are going to open up this lane for Lockhart, who's going to make a cut to the right side. You'll see an open angle at the net, and the goaltender's late to react. Lockhart goes bottom left. The Profs cut the lead in half. All right, it's crunch time now. 3.5 minutes to play, all tied up here between Rowan and Stevens. The Profs have possession and do a good job of maintaining this possession, just kind of passing the ball back and forth, not really doing anything super crazy. And in a way, this kind of lulls the Stevens defense to sleep. And Lowry's going to notice this and take advantage. A little explosion gets her inside the 8-meter arc. She fires it, goes bottom left on the goalie, and put the Profs on top in this one with just over 3 minutes left. All right, final clip. Just over 2 minutes to play. The Profs are up 1 and are man up. So it's time to put things away and pick up the win for Rowan. And Yasmin Harris is going to deliver the game-sealing goal right here. Stevens is going to be a little bit late to react to this pass and on this closeout, which allows Harris to take up the space inside the 8-meter arc. She's going to finish through contact and go bottom left on the goalie again to help give the Profs a W against a ranked Stevens team. The Profs now look ahead to continue their success on offense against 15th ranked Scranton tomorrow. But that'll do it here on this week's segment of Tape Talk here on All Access with the Profs. Now let's send it back to the studio.
Thanks, Mason. You won't want to miss Keegan Thompson's breakdown of where women's lacrosse ranks among its competitors around the NJAC. Rowan softball began its season outside the state of New Jersey, competing in both North Carolina and Delaware. For the first time this semester, Jake Clark offers his update on a softball squad with high aspirations.
Thanks, guys. Rowan softball began their 2026 season down in Raleigh, North Carolina at the Grand Slam Triangle Classic. This past Friday, Rowan battled against Eastern Mennonite to begin its season. The Profs defeated the Royals 11-1 in 5 innings. Rowan's offense was explosive, putting up 5 runs in the second inning and 6 runs in the third. Freshman Zoe Rogers led Rowan in the win with 3 RBIs. Later on Friday, Rowan took on North Carolina Wesleyan, and the Profs lost a tough one by a score of 11-9. The Profs' offense looked electric in the top of the second inning, scoring 7 runs. Unfortunately for Rowan, North Carolina Wesleyan was able to fight back as the battling Bishops outscored the Profs 8-2 after the second inning. It was a quick turnaround as Rowan had 2 more games on Saturday, first starting with their game against William Peace. The Profs lost to the Pacers 4-0, and Rowan was held hitless in the loss. Rowan was able to bounce back later on Saturday with a win against number 25th ranked Salisbury. The Profs defeated the Seagulls 4-2 in 8 innings with a great outing in the circle from Beth Ann Doderer. Doderer pitched all 8 innings for Rowan, recording 6 strikeouts in the win. On Monday, Rowan traveled down to the University of Delaware, where the Profs would play host to SUNY Oneonta and the Red Dragons for a doubleheader. Rowan swept SUNY Oneonta in the doubleheader, winning Game 1 8-0 and Game 2 6-0. Rowan begins their 2026 season with a 4-2 overall record. With lots of new additions and new faces on this team, it'll be fun to see where this squad ends up. From the Rowan University Softball Complex, I'm Jake Clark, sending it back to the studio.
Thanks, Jake. For more on softball, Jacob Michaud has you covered later on the show with his Magic Minute. Both men's and women's track teams won their respective NJAC tournaments last week. Now, the Profs will head to the national tournament. With the latest on track, it's Aiden Ray.
Thanks, guys. The Rowan men's and women's indoor track and field teams both competed this weekend at the AAR TFC Championships at the Armory in New York City. Both teams were able to get some good results once again. Starting off with the men's team, who are AAR TFC champions once again, Rowan racked up 118 points, almost 50 points ahead of second place SUNY Geneseo. The 4x400 relay of Ray John Dixon, Marquise Taylor, Teddy Wilson, and Dallas Honey turned in a season best time of 3:14.07 for a new number 11 Division III mark. In the high jump, David Brown cleared 2.12 meters as the Profs went 1-5 in the event. Some great results by the men's team. Moving over to the women's team, who finished in 31st place with a total of 7 points, 4 student athletes produced personal bests, highlighted by Denira Jones, who placed 5th in the long jump as the freshman hit a season best result. Paige Franklin stopped the clock at 25.85 for a season and personal best. A good job by the women's team. Up next for both track and field teams, they will compete in the NCAA Division III Championships at the Crossplex in Birmingham, Alabama next weekend. This is Aiden Ray, your Rowan track and field reporter here on All Access with the Profs, and we will send it right back to the studio.
Thanks, Aiden. If I'm not mistaken, Leo, I believe one of our crew members here might be traveling to Birmingham, Alabama to see some of Rowan's top athletes go at it.
Yeah, a little prof told me that Luke Brown is actually heading downtown to Birmingham, Alabama for the track national championship, and it's gonna be fun. I heard he's gonna have a blast. You know, he said he's gonna have a good time. He's looking forward to it. So we're all very excited for him here.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be. We're very excited for him. We're very excited for the track and field
teams.
teams.
100%.
They got it. I hope they bring home some gold for the Rowan Profs here. But enough on that. Some really great reports from our reporters this week. But don't go anywhere, because we have more coming up on the show today. Coming up on All Access with the Profs, we have Michaud's Magic Minute. We got Keegan Thompson with Around the NJAC. And of course, right after the break, we have Owen Colwell with his calendar segment. So don't go anywhere here on All Access with the Profs.
What's up, everyone? Owen Caldwell with you for yet another calendar segment here on All Access with the Profs. On this week's segment, we will be covering 2 weeks of action going all the way to Tuesday, March 24th. Instead of going day by day, we will go team by team. Let's start off with the winter teams. Rowan Indoor Track and Field will be heading to the Crossplex in Birmingham, Alabama for the NCAA Division III Championships. This will be held on Friday and Saturday, March 13th and 14th, beginning at 11 a.m. on both days. The number 2 men's team will be sending 20 Profs down to Alabama, while the women's team will have sophomore Nyla Jones and senior Gabriella Pagano representing them. Next, let's talk about Rowan women's swimming. The Profs will be sending 2 swimmers, junior Caitlin Krauthamel and senior Ella Pennington, to Indianapolis, Indiana, to take part in the NCAA Championships from Wednesday to Saturday, March 18th to the 21st, as it says right here. Times for these individual competitions are still to be determined. Next, it is on to Rowan Spring Sports, starting with number 10 baseball. From Thursday, March 12th to Friday, March 20th, Rowan will be participating in the Russ Matt Central Florida Invitational. Here's what their schedule for that will look like. Rowan will be in Winter Haven, Florida to take on Keystone on Thursday the 12th at 6 p.m. Then the Profs will travel to Davenport, Florida to battle SUNY Oneonta on Friday the 13th at 2 p.m. and Bethel on Saturday the 14th at 4 p.m. Next, it is on to Auburndale, Florida for 2 games. The first one will be on Sunday, March 15th at 2 p.m. against number 7 Salve Regina. And then Rowan will play again on Monday the 16th, as it says right here, taking on number 3 Johns Hopkins at 5:45 p.m. On Tuesday, March 17th, the Profs will head to Brandon, Florida to take on Trinity College of Florida at 3:30 p.m. before going back to Auburndale on Wednesday the 18th to play UMass Boston at 5 p.m. And then closing out their Florida stretch back in Winter Haven, playing Endicott at 10 a.m. on Friday, March 20th. Then, Rowan will have a few days off before picking back up in nearby territory, heading to Grantham, Pennsylvania on Tuesday, March 24th to play Messiah at 3:30 p.m. From there, we move to number 20 softball. Rowan softball will also be in Florida this month from Friday, March 13th to Friday the 20th, as it says right here, playing in the spring games. The first 6 games of this stretch for Rowan are in Winter Haven, Florida. They will have double headers there on Friday the 13th against number 16 Case Western Reserve at 1:30 p.m. and Wittenberg at 3:45 p.m. Saturday the 14th against Bowdoin at 10 a.m. and Ohio Wesleyan at 12:30 p.m. And then on Sunday the 15th against SUNY Fredonia at 10 a.m. and Manchester at 12:15 p.m. From there, the Profs will go to Kissimmee, Florida for 2 games on Tuesday, March 17th. Rowan will battle Ithaca at 10 a.m. and Wisconsin-Platteville at 12:15 p.m. From there, it is back to Winter Haven to close out the stretch. 4 more games remain, starting with NYU and Nazareth on Wednesday the 18th at 10 a.m. and 12:15 p.m., and then finishing with Hartwick and Wisconsin River Falls on Friday the 20th at 11 a.m. and 1:15 p.m. Our final team to discuss this week is women's lacrosse. Number 22 Rowan will host number 15 Scranton here in Glassboro on Wednesday, March 11th at 4 p.m., and then they will play Susquehanna on the road on Saturday the 14th at 1 p.m. From there, it's on to Tennessee for the Profs. Rowan will battle Sewanee on Tuesday, March 17th, and Rhodes on Thursday the 19th. The Sewanee game will be in Sewanee, Tennessee at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central Time, and the Rhodes game will be in Memphis, Tennessee at 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Central Time. Now, for the events of the week. This week, I am highlighting women's indoor track and field and women's swimming at NCAA championships. Best of luck to Nyla Jones, Gabriella Pagano, Caitlin Krauthamel, and Ella Pennington. That wraps up another calendar segment here on All Access with the Profs. Now, with more on these teams and athletes at NCAAs, let's hear from Sam Prince and Greg Mazzo.
Well, thank you, Owen. Welcome back to another episode of the Primetime Preview. I'm Sam Prince, and alongside me tonight is Greg Mazzo, and of course, it's NCAA season for the Profs, and let's start with the Rowan women's swim team. Caitlin Krauthamel and Ella Pennington are going to the women's swim NCAA. Krauthamel swims a 400-meter. Pennington has participated in the 100 backstroke, 200 backstroke, and 100 butterfly in the NCAAs. Mazzo, what can we expect from the rest of the swim team?
I think we got to expect big things because these are some really good athletes. And I think for Pennington, you look at her, she placed third in the 200 back at 158.64. And then in the 200 in the 100 back, she placed seventh at 55.49.
And it just seems like every year Ella Pennington is just breaking a new record. She seems like every year she's in the NCAAs now, where Owen also talked about the Rowan men's and women's indoor track team. Let's focus on the women's team. What can we expect from this women's indoor track team heading down to Birmingham?
Well, I think we got to expect big things because this team has been rolling as of late. And I think, down the stretch of the season, all these players are really in a groove. And I think a player to really point out is Gabriella Pagano, who ran a 16:45.30 in the 5,000 meter, and which ended up breaking a school record. But then another player is Nyla Jones as well, because she had a best 8.69 in the 60 meters as well. So those are two key players that I'm really looking out for down the stretch of this season in the NCAAs.
Crazy. We're going on spring break, and we usually highlight just one team. But we got to highlight two because, when you have multiple teams going to the NCAAs, you got to have extra highlights. And, spring break, double the episode just for one.
Yeah, no, that's why we had to cover both, because we're not going to be here next week. And we'll be here in 2 weeks where we have more spring sports to talk about. You got the Rowan baseball team, the softball team, the lacrosse teams. The track teams are down the stretch of the season, and they'll be outdoors soon as well. So a lot of fun stuff when it comes to Rowan spring sports.
Well, Mazza, hopefully we can come back and talk about some championships coming back to the Profs. But that'll do it for us for this week on Primetime Preview. For more news on what's going around in the conference, we're going to send it over to Keegan Thompson.
Sam, thank you. Now, let's take a look around the NJAC to see who's on top of the leaderboards at the start of the spring season. And we're going to have a start with women's lacrosse. No surprise there. It is TCNJ at the top. Still undefeated, 3-0 with wins over Catholic, Moravian University, and Ursinus. They're ranked 14th in the nation, and TCNJ also swiped an NJAC Offensive Player of the Week nod with our good friend CJ Cole, or enemy depending on who you ask. Across those first 3 games for TCNJ, she scored 14 goals and had 7 assists. TCNJ are right back where they left off last season, looking for their, get this, 15th straight NJAC championship run. Montclair and Rowan are just behind, tied for second at 3-1, though Rowan has had a more difficult schedule and is currently ranked in the nation 22nd. And also, they picked up an NJAC Defensive Player of the Week nomination with 4 goals, 10 ground balls, 12 draw controls, and 5 caused turnovers. Of course, I am talking about Madison Rothwine, who has been the champion of the draw circle for the Profs starting this season. Now, let's move over to softball, where the standing may not be just what you expect. Ramapo is currently on top of the standings with a 2-0 record overall, but the Profs have the most wins in the 6 games they've played. They had a slow start to the season with 2 wins in 4 games. They had 2 losses there as well, but they played 6 games over the last 5 days, including SUNY Oneonta in a doubleheader yesterday, to give themselves a 4-2 record, as you heard about earlier on in the broadcast. Now, they are down from number 6 in the nation down to number 20th, but they knocked off number 25 Salisbury at the Grand Slam Triangle Classic down in North Carolina this weekend. And now, rounding us off for spring sports, it's Rowan baseball. Technically, Rowan baseball is the highest, also undefeated with a 2-0 record and nationally ranked at 8th in the nation, or 10th depending on some polls. But Montclair, Ramapo, and Kane would all move ahead if Rowan were to lose even once. Following that great stretch of games, Rowan has had 2 NJAC Player of the Week nominations, one being Braden Davis who hit 76.9% in 3 games, 3 home runs, 5 doubles, and 10 RBIs. You heard about him earlier on. I also want to highlight infielder Kyle Lamentier, who was the NJAC Rookie of the Week, hitting 60% with 2 home runs. Congratulations to those two. But if the Profs were to lose even once, it would be Ramapo again tops in that case, with an impressive 5-1 season so far. Their only loss coming on Sunday in Game 2 of a doubleheader against Amherst in 5-4 fashion. They're actually playing right now against SUNY Maritime. But otherwise, the Roadrunners highlights includes a 14-4 thrashing of FDU Florham to snap the Devils' 6-game win streak and a sweep against Washington College in a doubleheader, 3-2 in Game 1 and 8-1 in Game 2. Pretty much every NJAC team has been in action today, so these standings will shift around once those updates are in. So take these current numbers with a grain of salt. It'll take a few weeks before we hear any more and anyone truly starts pulling ahead in the NJAC. But that will do it for all of our NJAC sports here. The proving times are now for all of our NJAC teams and their rivals. But that's going to do it for me around the NJAC. I'm Keegan Thompson. Let's send it back over to our intrepid anchor team.
Thanks, Keegan. And I have to say, we were both at that baseball, those baseball games, I should say, Leo, where they were able to take both those games against Vermont State Castleton. It was quite the experience going out to Flemington. Yeah. And, I mean, yeah, they're so dominant. Hopefully they can do it back in Glassboro.
I was flat out impressed by what they did. I mean, home run after home run. This team didn't have a lot of power last year. They found the power stroke so far in just 3 games. Can you believe that?
They really did.
Incredible. And, like, Braden Davis is, like, 10 for 13. Like, it's a ridiculous start. Also, when did Jay Clark get out from under his iceberg? Because he was frozen last week. Or not last week. He's been frozen the last couple weeks. That's why you replaced him.
Well, I think the good news is that because of this 78-degree weather we're having today, he's back. Okay. And he was able to do his report on softball. So there we go. Not only is Rowan baseball and softball back, but Jay Clark's now back. That's huge.
That's got to be the biggest news. The biggest news that we have for sure.
Well, here's the thing, Leo. There's someone that you can never freeze, and that is our magician, Jacob Michaud, who will be presenting the tricks Rowan softball pulled off as of late. Jacob, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Gerasimos. My name is Jacob Michaud, and welcome back to another week of My Magic Minute. Staying on the frozen topic a little longer real quick, the Rowan softball bats were completely frozen just 3 days ago as they were no-hit by William Peace. You know what they did later that same exact day? Bounced back and defeated number 25 Salisbury in extra innings. They must have taken some inspiration from Big Sean. You know, last night I took an L, but tonight I bounced back. No? Okay, all right, whatever. Huge shout out to Beth Ann Doderer, by the way, who kept Salisbury scoreless through 6 innings. She then had a shaky 7th that sent the game to extras, but she stayed in the game and bounced back, shutting the door in the 8th. The Profs then went on to win their next 2 games by a combined 14 runs. A huge difference maker in all 3 of those games was Abigail Pulowski, who had 6 RBIs in the 3-game stretch. She had a beautifully placed squeeze bunt RBI on Saturday that increased the cushion for Doderer in extras. And then in Game 1 on Saturday, she set the tone offensively and completely flipped the momentum defensively by gunning down a SUNY Oneonta player at home plate. All this makes it feel like we're in the beginning of what could be an absolutely magical stretch of softball, just in time for the spring games coming up next week. Shout out to Pulowski and the softball crew for showing us that we can't dwell on the past. Ted Lasso said it best, be a goldfish. That's all for me this week. Let's see what Jake Kitchen has cooking up for you guys with the weekly sports news. Take it away, Jake.
Thank you, Jacob. What a week it has been for NFL free agency, as well as the start of the World Baseball Classic. So let's hop right into these top stories from both events. The NFL free agency period officially begins Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern, but the legal tampering period, allowing teams to negotiate with pending free agents, began on Monday, with over 100 players having agreed to a new contract in just 1 day. So far, we have seen many shocking moves, but here are my top 3 signings from the legal tampering period. To start off, Kenneth Walker, the reigning Super Bowl MVP, is heading to Kansas City, where he will line up next to the 2-time league MVP, Patrick Mahomes. I think this is a great move for Walker, as he won't have to share touches as much as he did in Seattle. Could we see Walker win back-to-back MVPs? Only time will tell. The San Francisco 49ers picked up future first ballot Hall of Famer wide receiver Mike Evans, which was a shock to most. Evans, who holds the record with Jerry Rice for most consecutive seasons with 1,000 receiving yards, is looking to bounce back in the Bay after his season was cut short with a fractured collarbone. Lastly, my favorite move so far in the tampering period was my Giants picking up tight end Isaiah Likely. Boo me all you want, Eagles fans. Likely, who was the Ravens for 4 seasons, is reuniting with head coach John Harbaugh and will team up with the young star quarterback Jackson Dart to try and win the NFC East for the first time in 15 years. Ouch. Now let's move on to one of the greatest events sports has to give us, the World Baseball Classic. 20 national teams divided into 4 pools are playing not just for victory, but for the pride of their nation. We have been treated to several great games, but my personal favorite was the USA versus Mexico battle on Monday. The USA ended up on top 5-3 with all 5 runs coming in the 5th inning, as well as Captain America Aaron Judge hitting a 2-run smack to right field. Expect to see this matchup later on. So far, Puerto Rico, Japan, Korea, the Dominican Republic, and Venezuela have punched their tickets to the quarterfinals. There are still 3 tickets left that haven't been punched yet, 1 in Pool A and 2 in Pool B. For Pool A, the last spot will either be Cuba or Canada, and as for Pool B, the USA, Italy, and Mexico all have a shot to advance. We are in for a wild ride for the WBC, so make sure you are all strapped in until the finish. But what a week we truly had. I am so excited to see what I will be sharing with you all next time here on Weekly Sports News. Now let's send it back to the desk where Gerasimos and Leo will wrap up our show.
Thanks, Jake, and fantastic reporting on the world of national sports, too. And, I got to say, NFL free agency has intrigued me, rather. And, Gerasimos, I heard you got some updates on the union?
I'd rather not say.
Okay.
It's not good.
Yeah.
They don't know how to play soccer anymore. But continue.
Well, we can move on. Please do. We can move on. What about the Sixers? NFL free agency.
Hold up. Can anyone play for the anyone here? Luke, can you play? Someone, because the whole team's injured. We're all hurt again.
It's the Philadelphia Bluecoats.
Move on from that now.
So NFL free agency, Gerasimos. What about the Eagles? Are they doing some stuff?
All right, they did one thing.
Okay.
Now, we have something there.
Okay.
Reek Woolen, your former friend, is now my friend.
Yes.
Joining the Philadelphia Eagles. He just signed, literally like an hour ago, a $15 million deal. So I think that's my favorite deal.
That's
the only
move?
positivity I got going for me right now.
I mean, it can't all be bad. I mean, you still got a long offseason to go before the season starts, a chance to reset. But I'm still thinking about last year. We brought back Josh Jobe and Rashid Shaheed, part of the Super Bowl 60 winning squad.
All right.
And that was less than a month ago, a little bit over a month ago. I don't know. I'm not keeping track. I'm just on. I'm on cloud 9. I'm just on cloud 9 right now. But we had a great show today too. Excellent stuff from everybody across the board, and we just like to say thank you to them. Thank you to our wonderful crew as well. But I think that's all the time we got here on All Access with the Profs. For Gerasimos, Leo, I've been Leo West, and as always, go Profs!